in geometry that we covered that first day of class, you still need to have. So even though the second section of the course has some different material than the first section, there's certainly some things that are cumulative. You need to know all this stuff. You need to know all this, right? So if you don't memorize it, put it on your cheat sheet. We went through the trig review, field books. You need to know how to set up field books. So what labs will you have done before Monday? So you did the angle about a point. You did the interior angles of the triangle. And then this Saturday you have the two total station labs. The one that we just did, the heights, and also the interior angles and the length. So you have to be comfortable with all the field stuff. I could ask you, describe for me, angle, measuring horizontal angle by repetition. Explain to me the process that you're using to calculate the height of the tree. So the things that you've done in the field could be on the exam as well. I think we've been going over the different types of measurements, indirect and direct. You need to know what stations are. That was one thing that people kind of got messed up on. They forgot what a station is. So one station represents 100 feet. So a station 1 plus 25 means 125 feet. You need to be comfortable representing slope and grade, which is a relationship between the horizontal and the vertical distances. Right? What are the three ways to represent slope? Come on, come on, come on. Percent grade. Percent grade is equal to, what's the equation? B over H times 100. You need to know that one. What's another one? What's another way of representing? The vertical angle. The tangent of the vertical angle is V over H. Okay? And what's the third way of representing slope? The ratio. Is it H to V or V to H? H to V. Okay? You need to be comfortable with degrees, minutes, seconds, and decimal degrees. I'm hoping that everybody knows how to do degrees, minutes, seconds on their calculator. I'm just looking at there aren't going to be any tape questions on the exam because that was the first section of the course. No correction due to taping. No correction due to taping at all. That's the first section of the course. No leveling questions. No leveling questions. That was the first section. No rod readings. You do not need to memorize these horizontal controls. I'll tell you what they are. Okay, if I'm giving you an allowable, I'll tell you what the allowable is. But this question is it's still in this material, isn't it? For the total station lab that you're going to do where it's the height of the tree, you're looking at this kind of stuff. You have a horizontal distance, you have some vertical measurements, you have a slope distance, you have what angle is that? Zenith, you have a vertical angle, and be able to calculate stuff. You need to be able to see all this. You know now when you're representing a boundary line, it's got to be bearing and distance. What kind of distance? Horizontal distance. We looked at all the different types of horizontal angles, exterior, interior, angle to the right, angle to the left, and deflection angles. I won't ask you a question on deflection angles because we haven't used it yet. But in the third section of the course, we're going to be using deflection angles. You need to be able to do azimuths and bearings, for sure. That's not something we do. Then those traverse problems, right? You need to know what the interior angle equation is, n minus 2 times 180, depending on the length, the number of sides. You need to be able to figure out what the bearings are, given one bearing and all these interior angles. You need to be able to calculate the area of a traverse. And how do you do that? Double area method. You start and end with the same point. And be able to be comfortable doing latitude and departures, including the corrections. Remember we went through this whole problem, and we did the area, and we did the latitude and departures, and we did all the corrections. Make sure on your field books for when you did the interior, when you had a triangle and you did the interior and measured the interior angle, when you added those three angles, they should have been equal to 180, right? And if yours was too small or bigger or smaller than 180, you had to do an adjustment, right? So you took the error. How did you calculate the error? You added up all the angles, and they came out to be 181 degrees. What's your error? 1 degree, right? You measured all the angles and you added them up and it came to 178 degrees. What's your error? 2 degrees. How did you distribute the error? You divided it by 3. It was evenly distributed. Evenly distributed. Okay. But leveling, it wasn't evenly distributed, right? And also here, this wasn't evenly distributed either. Right? It was based on its length. You got to understand that. Then we did compasses, and today you had one full question on, past and present. And then last week we looked at some sample meets and bounds description, and we wrote our own, right? So when you start a meets and bounds description, how does it start? Beginning at a point blank, and it's reference to something. Beginning at a point marked by a iron pin, crossing the pavement. Thence, bearing distance to an iron pin, semicolon. Thence, bearing distance to an iron pin, semicolon. Thence, bearing distance to an iron pin. Thence, blank, blank, to point of beginning. Okay, so if I give you a little sketch, you can write the meets and bounds description. And then we just looked at the summary of using all the different equipment. Okay, so those are the things that are, I don't know if I'll have an in-class and a take-home exam. It's just when I went looking for problems, I found a lot. And that's why I had 2 exams. That was the first time I've ever had a take-home. Typically, it's only in class. So we'll just see when I look up problems if I find a lot and it's hard to choose, then I'll do 2 tests again. In the end, you always get to do a redo. So I gave you 2 tests, averaged it, and had a redo. So typically it's just 1 test and a redo. Okay. So let's look at the topics I want to cover today. So equipment review we did, total stations. I guess, one thing I said is typically we don't talk about how to measure the height of the tree and pole. Well, we did it in class, but typically we're pulling total stations out. We're not pulling them out, but I do want to show you the manuals, all right, so that we can look to see. It's not very complicated. It's a lot easier to use. But coming from knowing how to use a theodolite is really awesome because you understand how it works. You're not just pressing buttons. Okay, so we're going to look at that. Confirm battery charging. Patrick went around and checked some things out, but I will also check it when we get a total station in. Okay? And if they're not charged, then we will charge them for you. So I want all the batteries up here. I don't want any batteries to be brought home. So if you wouldn't mind, put the batteries there. We discussed the lab already. We set up the field book and the review for the exam. So the thing to do now is to look at the total station manuals. Okay, and it's actually online. Okay, so let's pull it up here. So I'm going back to the syllabus. To the web page, and if you go down below, it says total station instructions. This is what it looks like, and there's a so right here, there's a way of reading the angles on both sides. There is the, optical plumb. How did the optical plumb go for you? First time, was it hard? Remember on the theodolite, you had to make sure that you were over the point A, B, and C? It was hard, right, at the beginning, wasn't it? The second or third time, were you a pro already? No. It's tough. And the total station does have optical plumb too, so you're going to be doing the same thing again, so you're going to get better. It takes time. always set it up in the middle, and then you have a lot of movement, a lot of play. You know, so level the thing and get it in the middle of the tripod so you still have, because if you keep it loose on the bottom, it can still slide around. Once you tighten it up, then it's kind of set, but you still have the ability to move it around. So try to start in the middle, and you want to be somewhat close. So did you put a plumb bob on the bottom of it? Remember we talked about that in class? Putting a plumb bob on the bottom of the theodolite to kind of see if you are in range. So I would try to level the tripod and then get the equipment all leveled, then put the plumb bob on, and then you're near, within an inch of the tack, and then you just loosen it and move it around until you're over. And then once you seem like you're over, that's when you look in the optical plumb. Okay, so this has an optical plumb as well. This might be it actually right here. But you see there are some buttons here. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see what that button says? It says 0 set. So when you do angle by repetition and you're on point A, what do? Press that button. Remember how you had to line the two things up, 0, 0 to here? And then you lock the top, unlock the bottom, and get it to here? Here, you just bring it to A and you go 0 set. I don't know if you could read this. It says V/H. What do you think the V and the H should represent? Vertical and horizontal, and it's not distance, it's angle. This one is angle, so it's a vertical angle or a horizontal angle. So depending on what's pressed, it'll show you what the vertical or the horizontal angle is. Okay. And then there are buttons on the other side, and I'm hoping maybe there's a. Can we turn it around? Yeah. Let's see. Might be another picture. Oh, how are you having fun trying to get it in and out of the boxes? No, Francisco?
The prism, do you have to shoot it in the middle of the prism?
Yeah, but as long as you're around it, it's going to find it. You don't have to.
Yeah.
And you'll hear it with the distance. You'll click. You know, there are 3 different ways, and you'll see 3 different ways to find distances. And it'll like be searching it for it, and then it goes beep, and then you see it right there, and you know when it found it. This is kind of hard to put in too. Take a photo of how it was before you pull it out of the box.
Can we pick it up by the battery pack, or is that?
No, don't.
Okay.
Yeah, don't. No.
It looks like a really nice handle, so.
Yeah, it does, and that's probably, it's not a handle for lifting, it's a handle for putting the thing on. You know, so yeah, no. Okay, so, oh yeah, they're showing us the same side again, huh? There's the V and H. Let's see, maybe on the other side. Ah, yes. Okay, let's look at this. I don't know if you could see this right here. Let me draw it. It's a button that has a right triangle on it. And it's colored in. And it has these things. So if this is lit, what kind of distance you think you're looking at, you're reading? Horizontal. Or you get this and it's vertical, or this, slope. So depending on what you have it on, if you have it on this and you press the button to get the distance, it's going to, it's going to go, and then it's going to beep, and then you're going to know you get the horizontal distance. Then you press the button, and then it'll give you the vertical. Press the button, get the slope. So what you do is you look at this, you are clicking the button to turn it, and then on that readout, here it'll show you whether it's the vertical, the horizontal, or the slope. So you should definitely take some time before Saturday and look at this. Like, what is 23? Well, it could be the optical plumb. It could be the locking, right? It could be the locking for the upper plate or the lower plate. So let's see what 23 is. Optical plumb. Okay, it's going to be similar things. Like, okay, let's look at this. Although it looks like that they're not referencing there, so it must be referenced here. Okay, oh, this is good to tell you. I'll just do it over here. You know how on the theodolite, this is a top view, you would have a tangent screw, and then there would be one screw coming out. And then you noticed on the upper one, there was in the upper plate, there was just a screw like this that was locking, and then you saw somewhere else this screw, right? Remember that? So which one locks? The perpendicular one, because it's a screw, and you shove the screw there and it locks it, right? Okay. This one's allowing it to turn a little, this one, it's a tangent screw. Well, on a total station, typically, the things come out, and let me try to draw it. You'll see two screws, two knobs. One locks and one's the fine tuner. So this one, I believe, is the lock, and this one's the fine tuner. Okay? So you're seeing here, there's like a, so here, 1, 2, they're on the same thing. 7, so it's either the upper or the lower plate lock. 7, upper plate tangent screw. Maybe I'm wrong, because look, 7 says the tangent screw, and 6, oh yeah, look, 7 is here, and 6 is here, they're both on the same spot. So wait, 6 is motion, tangent, so this one's the lock, 6 is the lock, this one's the lock, is that what I said?
Yep.
This one locks, and this is the one, okay? On the bottom, there are three screws, just like the theodolite and the level that you had. There's locking for the vertical. I think when we took the theodolites out 2 weeks ago, you remember how we pulled it out? It was like we couldn't move the telescope, and then you loosened it, and then you were able to move it. There's that kind of features on here too. But it's this whole thing that gets moved. This whole thing can spin. And actually, when you first turn it on, you have to spin this whole thing. I usually just go, and it goes around a couple of times. But you just need to spin it once, because you have to kick it kind of into gear. So you'll see an error message here until you think like, oh, it's not working, and then you just spin it, and then it's fine. I don't know why. It's something, I don't know what. Let's see. So here, look, 21 and 22. What do you think 21 and 22 are? So one's locked, one's tangent, and it probably, since it's so high, I would guess that it's the vertical. So let's see. 21 and 2, yeah, vertical. And then this one was on the other side. Okay, well, how about here? 23 is probably the upper plate, I'm going to guess. Oh, no, that's the optical plumb. And what's 33? Oh, correct. We're not, oh, you asked about calibration. These things, because they're sending out lasers, they really should be calibrated for atmospheric pressure, because if there's more moisture in the air, then you can imagine a laser shooting out is going to have some error, but we're not dealing with that. The allowable error I gave you is with having a little bit of error atmospheric.
What's like the maximum range you can measure distance?
I don't know. We've never hit it.
Oh, I don't know.
So I don't know, but I would probably just go look on the manual or do a Google search. But I don't remember off the top of my head. We never went there, but good question. I think it's more than a mile, but I'm not positive. What? Oh, Alexi, do you know?
Alexi's gone.
You know.
Oh, never mind.
Say it again.
So you pack up your stuff.
1,200 feet he's done. Okay, so that's a quarter of a mile. A little less. Okay, so here, this is what the panel, that eyepiece, not the eyepiece, but this right here looks like this. So here's the H or V. So right now, since it's a V, the angle you're going to get is a vertical angle. If it's an H, it's a horizontal angle. This right here is that thing that tells you, and you would never have all three of these lit at the same time. There would always be one or the other. This is the units. This is how much your battery is charged. The maximum amount it can be charged is 3 bars. You have to make sure that you go out there with at least 2 batteries so you don't have to come back to the office. This is important. This is important that the negative is only here. Only here. So, if you measure an angle that's 4 degrees, so let's see, 0, 0, 0, 0, 4 degrees, or even a distance, let's say you measured a negative distance and it says 2 feet, and the negative is all the way over to the left. So you have to really, don't just read the number, always look to the left, because it can throw you off. And when would this happen? This is going to happen when we do topography, because you might be going down slope, and you're going to get a vertical. Oh, well, in this one, in your height lab, you should be getting a negative distance, right? When you go down, well, you're getting a negative angle. The negative angle is a little more obvious. So it is when you do topography, when we're talking about negative distances. And here, okay, so R and L, what do you think that means without reading it? Right or left, turning the angle left, angle to right. What's REP? Repetition. So you have to press that button at first to tell the computer that you're actually doing angle by repetition. 0 set, you know, the light, I've never had to use the light. Here's repetition, right or left, 0 set. Here's the other one. So here's the distance. There are 2 different ways, actually 3 different ways to measure a distance. One way is to just send out a laser, it comes back and it gives you a distance, or you could do it where it's continuously sending out a laser. It's kind of like averaging the distances and comes back and get a value. Either one will work for us. So let's see. That's giving a. You're going to be following 2 different. Two different directions in here. Let's just find it. There, angle measurement. So measuring a right horizontal angle and a vertical angle. Okay? So right horizontal angle is an angle to the right, right? So first, what do? Collimate? Find target A. Okay? Find target A. So when they move to target A, so basically look at this. So the battery's fully charged. They have it set on a horizontal angle, not a vertical. And they find A, and when they move it to A, it says 12 degrees, 34 minutes, 50 seconds, and they press 0 set. So now A is zeroed, right? Then you go to B and you get the angle. And this is the horizontal angle, but they also wanted to know, so this is not angle by repetition, right? We didn't press the REP button. And we also wanted to know what the vertical angle is to be. So then you press the HV button and you got the vertical angle. But now let's look at angle by repetition. The first thing you do is you hit REP. Instrument now is set in the repeat mode. You go to A, right, and you 0 set it. You get an angle of 65. You bring it back to A, but because you're in the repeat mode, it knows that you're holding on to that angle, and when it goes to the point B the second time, it gets 130. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. So you click the repetition, you go to A, and it just has some arbitrary angle because you turned it to A, you got 65. You press 0 set and it's 0. Then you turn to B, you get 130. And because you're in the repetition mode, how many of you have done AutoCAD? You know how there's commands in commands? For instance, you say line, I want to draw, or you click. You guys probably do a lot more clicking. I first learned AutoCAD when it was all keyboarding. So we never had a mouse to begin. Well, was there a mouse? No, you know what, there was a mouse, but there wasn't,
Clicks.
I don't remember. I always type L for line. It's quick for me now. So you type L for line, and now it says, where do you want to draw the line from, right? And then you could type END, the end point of, and then you could find the end point of a line, and then it says, where do you want to draw to? You get it? So that END is a command inside a command. I was in the line command, and then I told it I wanted to pick the end point. This is the same thing. We know what this VH button is. It's to control the horizontal and vertical angle. But it's also a command inside a command. So when you're in the repetition command, so you hit repetition, it's 0 to start, you go to A, and you get 65, you hit 0 set, so it puts A at 0, right? Then you turn to B and you get 130, and then you hit this button, you're not controlling R, V or H, it's a command, and it locks this 130, and then you go back to A, and then when you go to B, you get 260, and then you divide it by 2. Okay? So this is what we're going to be doing, angle by repetition. And you didn't have to lock, unlock all those open plates and stuff, you know? But you will have to lock it somewhat, because when you, if you're turning an angle, if you're turning your equipment and the angle is not changing, what is locked and unlocked? So you have it on A, you have it on 0, right? The angle says 0, and you keep spinning it, and it's still on 0, and it doesn't turn. I mean, it doesn't change, the angle doesn't change, it still says 0. What is locked? What's unlocked? The bottom plate. So then you gotta lock the bottom plate. Okay. Okay, and then the other command that we're doing is distance measuring, and there are a few different ways. One is by hitting this button, and you'll read it, it says it's continuously taking measurements and giving you the value. And notice what is it in? What units? Meters. So the battery again is fully charged because it says 3. We're looking at which distance? Horizontal distance, and it's in meters. So by pressing this button, it continuously measures. But you don't want to press, this button uses a lot of juice on the battery. So you want to make sure that you have your prism set up. Don't just keep pressing that button for the fun of it because you want to see a bunch of C's going across. Okay? Make sure you're shooting for a prism. So that's one way to find the distance, but the other, so this is continuous measurement. The other one is just by pressing that dot, which is another button, and now it's doing distances too. And then you press, notice here it says horizontal, and then you could press, this is still horizontal, but then you can press this key and it'll show you the vertical, slope, horizontal, you know, you can keep pressing that, and you keep getting the different distances. So we have the manuals are in each, when you take the total station out in the field, you'll have the manual with you, so you don't have to go on your phone. And there's the steps. Questions? No? Okay, so Saturday you're using the total station, and then what's happening next week on Monday?
Exam number 2.
So you have so Monday, October 24th is your second exam, and after the exam we will do a little exercise on scales and sizes. Who actually, okay, who's been in 20, you can shut it off now.